This horrible looking creature I have in front of me is a goose. We don't eat a lot of goose in this country, and that's sort of a shame because it's really great stuff. But it's sort of scary. It's a big bird. It's not as friendly as a turkey because it's a lot of bone, less meat. And a lot of people are scared because it has a lot of fat in it. It's really just basically a big duck. So you could just shoot one out in the front yard depending on where you live. I got this one from a supermarket where it's ungodly expensive, but depending on where you live in the country, it might be actually fairly cheap. The prices range from $1 to $5 a pound. Guess which I paid. You can see it's a bird that typically does fly, so it has these enormous wings. You're going to need to get rid of those because they're going to flop around in the oven or on the rotisserie or anything, and I'll show you how to do that. But we should talk about it a little bit. Most of the recipes you see either online or in cookbooks and all that call for you to prick the skin all over to let the fat drain out, much like they say for duck. I've never had good luck doing that. The skin never comes out really crispy. The best you could say is it comes out sort of leathery. My theory is that when you puncture the skin, a lot of moisture comes out through those holes with fat and keeps the skin from getting truly crispy. If you think about it, the paragon of crispy skin is a Peking duck or Beijing duck. And when the Chinese do it, they do the opposite of poking holes all over the skin. They, in fact, sew the thing up and inflate it with air so that the skin will separate from the meat, but the last thing you'd want to do is punch a hole in the skin. I've found that that's actually a better way to do it. Now, we're not going to go through all the elaborateness of punching holes or sewing or inflating with an air pump or a bicycle pump or even a straw, but we are going to try to separate the skin from the goose. So that's what we're going to do now. This guy's been taken out of his package and washed thoroughly. I've got him sitting on a vertical turkey roaster, not because we're going to roast him vertically, but because it's a very good way to drain all the moisture off, because that's another important point we're going to talk about in a minute. So first thing we want to do is try to get that skin separated from the meat a little bit, and it isn't the easiest thing to do in the world, but it is doable, and you don't need a pump or anything to do it. So you do want to remove these large globs of fat. You're going to use these, you're going to save them because this fat is fantastic for frying in or cooking in or using for other uses. So don't throw it away, but you do want to take it off the bird. You can see there's a lot of fat inside the bird. So you can take the large pockets of fat out. Okay? Also, if there's extra floppy skin, you can trim that away too. A little more extra fat. And inside the bird, you will find, as with most other birds, the neck. Also inside was this little pouch of giblets. Save those because you're going to make a wonderful stock with that later, which you can use for either a sauce or for other purposes. So first thing, let's get rid of these wings because they're in the way. So just cut at the second joint. Normally, you might keep this part if you had a chicken, but they're not. They're going to be in the way. So you can just actually sort of snap it back and see where the cartilage shows and try to get the knife in there. Now, I'm not having a lot of luck, so you could also just whack it and off it comes. Okay, save that for stock. Same thing with this one. Cut through the skin, back, and give it a good whack. Well, sometimes it'll take a couple. These are more like turkeys, so the bones are bigger than a little chicken. Now you have a lot of extra neck skin here too, so we're going to trim that off as well. You could keep it and sew it closed, but I don't think it's really necessary. But again, I'm going to keep it, render the fat out of it, and use it for stock. Now, you want to at least get the skin separated from the meat along this part, along the breast. So the best way is just get under the skin and start working your thumb under it. What you don't want to do is tear the skin. Now, as you can see, obviously my thumb is only that long. Even my longest fingers are this long, but the breast is pretty long to get into. So as you work your fingers under, you can take a chopstick and work that under gently. And I think you can see that it's getting between the skin and the meat, and work it back and forth real gently. If that doesn't work, you can take the handle of a wooden spoon and do the same thing. There's a little gap between the thigh and the leg and the part and then the breast. You can get the spoon in there too, or just work your fingers around in it. You really got to get up close and personal here. I know a lot of people don't like to touch raw food, but you need to get over it for this. As you get under there, you can feel they're really pretty thick pockets of fat. But this is all going to cook off, even though you're not punching holes in the skin. Okay, so we've got most of that done. Don't worry about the back, it's all backbone. You're not going to eat too much of that anyway. And the wings, it's impossible, so don't even worry about it. Now, the other great thing that the Chinese do with their fowl is they let them air dry. And in addition to letting them air dry, they steam them or poach them or pour boiling water over them to tighten up the skin and help encourage the drying. And most of the recipes you'll see for a goose or a duck or something call for a sort of sweet and salty sauce to put on the bird before you roast it. So we're going to make that now. I've got a pot of water boiling on the stove, and to it I'm going to add about a half a cup of honey and about a half a cup of soy sauce. It could be any kind you like. They traditionally use maltose, which is a sugar syrup. It's a little hard to find. You could use Caro corn syrup. You could make your own syrup, but honey works just fine. So we're going to go and add this to the pot of water on the stove right now. So the water is simmering. I'm going to add the soy sauce to about 3 quarts of water and the honey. And bring that back to a boil. All right, so now that it's come to a good boil, we can turn off the fire and bring it over to the goose. And basically what you're going to do is just pour this boiling liquid all over the skin. The more you do this, the better it's going to be. The skin will tighten up. You can actually see it tightening as you pour the liquid over it. And pour it on both sides. Maybe a little on the sides. So I think we're just going to be happy with doing this. Now you need him to dry, and I'm going to leave him in the refrigerator for about a day. So I'm going to stand him up. It's a little hot, but not very, because the inside is still cold and it's still completely raw. But I'm going to use my vertical turkey roaster to stand him up, prop his legs forward, and there. Now, it looks a little more petite than he did in the beginning. Skin is tight and shiny. Over the next day or so, it's going to dry off beautifully. It's got a little bit of this honey soy sauce mixture on him to give it flavor, and the sugar and the honey will cause him to get very, very brown when we roast him. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do that yet. I think maybe we'll do them on the rotisserie, but you could easily do them on a rack and a roasting pan just as well. We're going to come back in a couple of days and cook them.